Welcome to HOA Story Speaker, your daily destination for powerful, shocking, and real-life inspired HOA stories.
6 a.m. Tuesday morning. I step outside to pour my coffee, and the smell slams into me like a fist. Raw bleach, sharp and bitter, burning my eyes and throat. My pH meter shrieks 11.8. The lake, my lake, is glowing an unnatural blue. Hundreds of rainbow trout float belly up, silver scales catching the sunrise like a watery graveyard. This was where Margaret and I sat every morning, watching fish jump while we held hands in quiet comfort. She passed away last year. This lake was the last piece of her I had. And then I see her. Veronica Sterling Cross, HOA president, standing smugly in her mansion window, smiling like she finally won. She thinks poisoning my lake will force me to sell. What she doesn't realize is that she just poisoned the entire neighborhood's drinking water. What would you do? Drop your city below. I want to know who's watching. Because she's about to learn the hard way. Let me rewind and tell you how we got here. My name is Eugene Kellerman. Folks call me Bud. I'm 61 years old. I spent 37 years running water treatment plants across Oregon until a back injury shoved me into early retirement. Now I survive on disability payments that barely cover my prescriptions. About $800 a month if I'm lucky. This lake has been in my family for 4 generations. My grandfather built that hand-carved fishing dock you can barely see through the chemical haze. The scent of Douglas fir and mountain air used to blend with the soft chatter of the creek feeding the lake. Margaret and I sat there every morning for 23 years of marriage, her hand in mine, watching the mist lift off the water. She died 3 years ago. Lung cancer. Doctors gave us 6 months. She fought for 18. When the pain made walking impossible, that dock became our refuge. Even now, I can still smell her lavender perfume mixed with pine needles. After she passed, I started a small fishing guide service. Nothing fancy, just helping disabled veterans like me find a little peace on the water. $50 for a half-day trip, maybe $300 a month when the fish were biting. It was never about money. It was about sharing what Margaret and I found here. Then came Veronica Sterling Cross. Marketing executive. White Tesla that costs more than I'll see in 5 years. HOA president for 6 straight years. Power rushed to her head faster than champagne bubbles. She rotates fake designer handbags depending on which neighbor she's terrorizing that week. Cedar Ridge Estates, that's our slice of paradise turned homeowner hell. 52 houses, mostly retirees who came for peace and quiet. Everyone pays the HOA $180 a month for what Veronica calls premium mountain spring water delivery. Sounds impressive, right? Trouble started 6 months ago when Veronica decided my lake would be the perfect centerpiece for a luxury spa resort she dreamed up. Problem was, my land wasn't for sale. So she got creative. First came the fines. $2,500 for unauthorized commercial activity, because I took veterans fishing. Then she started showing up at my dock with a clipboard, snapping photos like I was running some criminal operation. Here's the kicker. My vintage pH meter. Solid brass from 1987, a gift Margaret bought me for our anniversary. I used to test our well water back when I was paranoid from years in water treatment. Now I carry it out of habit like a lucky charm. That morning when I smelled chemicals and saw dead fish, that little meter saved my life. One deep breath of those fumes and I'd have been calling poison control. Instead, I knew exactly what I was seeing. Someone dumped enough pool shock into my lake to sterilize a city swimming pool. Gravel crunching snapped me back. Veronica's Tesla rolled into the HOA office lot, and through the window I saw that satisfied grin. She planned this. What she didn't know, what none of them knew, was that 37 years in water treatment teaches you more than reading meters. I knew how systems worked. I knew how to trace contamination. And I knew water always finds the truth. Standing in that chemical fog, clutching my dead wife's gift, I made a choice. Margaret always said water thieves drown in their own lies. Time to test that. 3 days after the poisoning, gravel crunched again. This time it wasn't Veronica. It was a white pickup marked Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife. My stomach sank. The officer looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Badge said Inspector Martinez, with the apologetic shuffle of a man sent on a pointless errand. Mr. Kellerman, I'm here about a report of unlicensed commercial fishing. Veronica moved fast. HOA fines didn't work, so she ran to the state. Complaint claimed I was running an illegal guide service, threatening fish populations. $5,000 investigation fee if violations were found. Worse, any violation could jeopardize my disability, the only income one had. I handed Martinez a folder Margaret helped me organize. Recreational license, county permit, liability insurance. He spent an hour reviewing it all. His face shifted from bureaucratic boredom to confusion. These are all valid, he said. More thorough than most operations. That's when I realized her first mistake. She didn't know the difference between harassment and enforcement. I did. 37 years of dealing with inspectors taught me bureaucratic warfare. I drove to the county records office, down to those dusty basement rooms where old deeds go to die. That's where I found Veronica's weak spot. The Cedar Ridge Estates covenants filed in 1987 clearly stated HOA authority applied only to properties developed as part of the community. My land, inherited in 1962, was exempt as pre-existing agricultural use. They had zero authority over me. None. With my last $3,000, I hired Sarah Monroe, a property rights attorney. Sharp as a fillet knife and twice as precise. She looked at my documents and smiled like a cat spotting an open goldfish bowl. Mr. Kellerman, she said, this is a slam dunk. Meanwhile, Veronica was hosting emergency HOA meetings, ranting about my dock lowering property values and creating visual pollution. Funny thing, if my land was such an eyesore, why were values still climbing? Inspector Martinez called the next week, voice heavy with apology. My permits were valid. Someone fed them bad information. Here's what people don't know. When land use predates development, it's legally protected. Grandfathered use beats HOA rules every time. But Veronica wasn't finished. 2 days later, I found her at my property line with a city inspector, whispering about environmental hazards and abatement orders. That night, I sat on Margaret's dock with my pH meter. The water was finally settling, fish returning, pH back to 7.2. But I felt the storm coming. In my tackle box sat Sarah's card. Time to make another call. Because if Veronica wanted environmental war, she picked the wrong opponent. The license plate was only partly visible, V something. There's more, Dave said. Sunday morning, around 11 a.m., same car, but this time she parked and walked toward the water carrying something that looked like a gallon jug. We now had video evidence of Veronica at my lake during both chemical attacks. But Monday afternoon brought a new problem. Linda Kowalski called, her voice shaking. Bud, Veronica just offered Dave $5,000 cash to rethink what he saw Saturday night. She said reporting false information to authorities could land him in serious legal trouble. Witness tampering. Bribery. By the hour, the woman was digging herself deeper. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in months. I walked the full perimeter of my property. My grandfather's survey stakes were still there, rusted but readable. That's when I saw something that stopped me cold. A thin black pipe, maybe 4 inches wide, running from the far edge of my lake toward the HOA development. It was half hidden by blackberry bushes, easy to miss unless you knew to look. I followed it about 50 feet before it vanished underground. My water treatment instincts kicked in. That pipe was too big for irrigation, too straight for natural drainage. It looked like a water intake. Using a trenching shovel from my shed, I carefully dug around the pipe. 3 feet down, I found exactly what I feared. A professional-grade intake manifold with flow controls and pressure gauges. This wasn't improvised. Someone had spent real money installing a permanent extraction system. The serial numbers led me to Morrison Pump Company in Portland. One phone call confirmed it. Installed in 2009 under permit WR22847, registered to Cedar Ridge Estates Utilities Management. Veronica's HO. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with a legal pad and calculator. A 4-inch intake can move roughly 12,000 gallons a day. Multiply that by 15 years and you get 65 million gallons taken from my lake without permission. The kicker? Every Cedar Ridge resident paid $180 a month for premium mountain spring water. That's over $112,000 a year flowing into HOA accounts for water they were stealing. 15 years came out to nearly $1.7 million in fraudulent billing. Margaret used to say thieves are always caught by their own greed. Staring at those numbers, I realized Veronica hadn't just poisoned my lake to stop my fishing. She'd poisoned the source of her own illegal business. Tuesday morning, Jake Morrison arrived with gear that looked straight out of a NASA lab. Ground-penetrating radar, precision flow meters, and a pipe tracer that could follow underground lines for miles. Bud, if someone's been stealing your water for 15 years, we're going to know exactly how much. We traced the pipe from my lake. The radar showed it clearly, 847 feet underground, straight to a concrete building behind the Cedar Ridge Community Center. The building I'd always assumed stored pool equipment. Jake's flow meter told the real story. Average flow, 12,000 gallons a day. Summer peaks closer to 15,000. Let's see where it goes. The building wasn't locked. Inside was a full water treatment facility. Industrial sand filters, chlorination systems, pressure tanks, distribution pumps. Professional work, easily 40 grand. Then I saw the brass nameplate, Alpine Springs Water Delivery. Premium Mountain Source. The same company billing residents $180 a month. Jake let out a low whistle. They're not just stealing your water. They're running a fake delivery company. We documented everything. The intake, the treatment system, the pipes feeding directly into Cedar Ridge's water mains. Every drop of premium water came from my lake. Jake checked dates on the equipment. Installed in 2009, upgrades in 2012, 2016, and 2019. 15 years. 52 homes times 180 a month came out to over 1.8 million in total billings. And Alpine Springs existed only on paper. Sole proprietor, Veronica Sterling Cross. Billing residents for protected wilderness water while stealing it from private land. By Wednesday the picture was complete. Theft of utilities. Wire fraud. Environmental violations. Prison-level offenses. I called residents I trusted. Dave and Linda. Tom Peterson. Mary Beth Santos. Same conversation every time. You're paying how much for water? Have you ever seen a delivery truck? Long pause. By evening, 8 residents wanted answers publicly. Then Sarah Monroe called. The city quietly withdrew its drainage petition. No explanation. Someone had realized draining my lake would expose their intake system. Pressure was working. By Thursday, Channel 8 was involved. Lisa Park saw everything. The pipe. The fake company. The billing records. Dave's security footage. 15 years of fraud. Sunday night, lead story. Friday morning, Veronica called me herself. Sweet voice, fake as syrup. She offered $50,000 to relocate. I countered with $1.7 million and full disclosure to residents. Long silence. You can't prove anything. Sunday night, I said. Watch the news. Saturday evening, I sat on Margaret's dock, watching trout break the surface again. The chemicals were gone. She always said water finds its own level. Truth does too. Sunday morning I heard metal on metal. Veronica swinging a sledgehammer at the intake pipe, trying to erase evidence. Dave's cameras caught everything. The pipe burst. Water exploded. Her own utility room flooded. $40,000 in equipment drowned in stolen water. Sarah's voice was almost laughing. Bud, that's obstruction and destruction of evidence. By noon, plumbing trucks lined the HOA building. 52 families had no water and no explanation. Insurance adjusters arrived. Policies were void. Fraud noted. That night, Channel 8 aired the story. 15 years. $1.7 million. Security footage. Chemical attacks. Sledgehammer sabotage. Veronica declined to comment. Margaret was right. In the end, the truth always flows back to the surface. They released a statement insisting every drop of water had been taken with proper permits and tested by licensed professionals. Proper permits. I nearly laughed out loud. Jake Morrison had already verified that no extraction permits had ever existed for my land. The only licensed professional involved was Jake himself, documenting Veronica's crimes for a federal case. My phone rang nonstop Sunday night. Tom Peterson. Mary Beth Santos. 8 different Cedar Ridge residents asking the same question. Were their water bills part of a scam? The answer was yes. Every bit of it. 15 years of fake delivery charges for water siphoned straight from my lake. Monday morning brought Veronica's last desperate move. She called at exactly 7 a.m., her voice trembling under forced calm. But let's be reasonable. I'll pay for the pipe repairs. Maybe we can work out a water sharing agreement. 50-50 on Alpine Springs revenue. Revenue sharing. On water she stole from my own property. Veronica, I said, you poisoned my lake twice. You stole 65 million gallons. You defrauded 52 families for 15 years. What exactly do you think we're negotiating? The silence stretched so long I thought she'd hung up. Please, she whispered. I can't go to prison. Margaret always said people who abuse power eventually run out of people to abuse. Looked like it was finally her turn. Tuesday morning the health inspector arrived. Not Bradley Hutchkins this time, but his supervisor. Carol Martinez. Stern, sharp-eyed, the kind of woman who'd seen every version of municipal corruption and had no patience left for any of it. Mr. Kellerman, we're here regarding an emergency health order filed against your property. I've reviewed the documentation and frankly I'm confused. She held up a thick manila folder. According to our records, Inspector Hutchkins issued an emergency drainage order for imminent public health risks. But the county health department has no record of it. You're saying it's fake? I'm saying someone forged county health documents using city letterhead. That's a felony. Carol Martinez took it personally. She spent an hour cross-checking signatures, dates, reference numbers. Mr. Kellerman, this order was never filed. The signature is forged. The citation numbers don't exist. The health codes are fabricated. Veronica had pushed Hutchkins to fake emergency orders to force my lake drained. But fake government paperwork wasn't just fraud, it was federal crime with mandatory prison time. By that afternoon, Cedar Ridge was in panic. Day 3 of the water pressure collapse. Residents demanded answers about their premium delivery service that had suddenly vanished. Mary Beth Santos called around 3 p.m. Bud, emergency HOA meeting tonight. Veronica's claiming supply chain issues, but nobody's buying it. Too many people saw the flooded equipment room. Tom Peterson had done the math. 52 homes at $180 a month. Nearly 10 grand monthly. For that kind of money, trucks should have been rolling daily. But nobody could remember seeing even one. The revolt had started. 15 years of fraud unraveling because Veronica destroyed her own system in a panic. But she wasn't done. Tuesday night brought her most reckless move yet. The knock came at 8 p.m. 3 men in cheap suits trying way too hard to look dangerous. The lead guy had soft hands and empty eyes. Mr. Kellerman, we're here for Miss Sterling Cross. She'd like to resolve this quietly. And you are? Business consultants. She's offering $75,000 cash for relocation and a non-disclosure agreement. Business consultants. Right. I'd bet my disability check they had criminal records longer than my fishing rod. Gentlemen, you should leave. He stepped closer, crowding my space. Miss Sterling Cross is trying to be reasonable. If you keep interfering, things get complicated. That's when Dave Kowalski's voice cut through the night. Evening, fellas. Everything all right here, bud? Dave brought friends. Tom Peterson with a bat. Bill Santos standing like a Marine on parade. 3 more neighbors. Just consultants, I said. They're leaving. The lead guy scanned the group, did the math, and decided 75 grand wasn't worth a hospital stay. We'll be in touch. Dave shook his head. She sent muscle over water bills. She's lost it. She's desperate. Channel 8 exposed her. Her equipment's destroyed. 52 families want answers. Tom grinned. Tonight's meeting's gonna be ugly. Wednesday morning the FBI arrived. 2 agents in dark suits who made those consultants look like amateurs. Agent Sarah Kim introduced herself. Utility fraud. Municipal corruption. Mr. Kellerman, we understand you've documented a 15-year pattern of water theft. We'd like to see everything. 3 hours later they'd reviewed flow meter data, intake systems, billing records, security footage, forged health orders, all of it. Agent Kim nodded. This is the most complete utility fraud case we've seen. Prosecution ready. What happens now? Now we arrest everyone involved. That afternoon I sat on Margaret's dock. The water was clear again. pH back to 7.1. Trout rising in the sunlight. My phone buzzed. HOA emergency meeting tonight. FBI will be present. Margaret always said cornered animals make the worst mistakes. Wednesday night the community center was packed. 52 families. 3 reporters. 2 FBI agents pretending to be residents. 1 sweating HOA president. Veronica sat up front with fake confidence and visible panic. She started talking about temporary disruptions. Mary Beth stood up. Where are the delivery trucks? Tom raised his hand. I called Alpine Springs. The number goes to your phone. Dead silence. That's when I stood. The pH meter caught the light. Veronica went pale. I connected my phone to the projector. Footage filled the screen. Her Tesla. My lake. Chemical containers. 15 years of theft. 12,000 gallons a day. No trucks. No springs. Just stolen water and $1.7 million in fraud. The room erupted. She screamed about contracts. I told them Alpine Springs was registered in her name. Sole proprietor. No source. No delivery. Just theft. Then I showed the test results. Pool shock residue. Chlorine contamination. When she poisoned my lake, she poisoned her own stolen supply. You paid premium prices for contaminated water. Silence. Linda Kowalski asked the question everyone feared. Have we been drinking stolen lake water for 15 years? Veronica snapped, calling me bitter. That's when I smiled. Veronica, I am your water company. I shut it off. Pressure dropped to 0. Tom laughed. Recognition, not humor. She billed us for stolen water. Agent Kim stood. Veronica Sterling Cross, you're under arrest. The cuffs clicked. Cameras flashed. As they dragged her out screaming, I raised the pH meter. You can't steal water and poison it to hide the theft. Water always finds the truth. 3 months later, the settlement arrived. $850,000. Legal fees covered. Restoration funded. Veronica got 18 months. Hutchkins got 3 years. Cedar Ridge rebuilt. Clean water. Lower bills. Transparency. Trout restocked. Veterans fishing Saturdays. Education center opening soon. Scholarships launching next year. And every morning, I sit on Margaret's dock, coffee in hand, listening to clean water move the way it's supposed to. Margaret was right. Truth and clean water always end up where they belong.